All right, hello everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in around the world for another exciting edition of the Shiny Developer Series. We are now on episode 6, and I've been greatly appreciative of all the wonderful feedback all of you have been giving to us. And this is, of course, a joint partnership with RStudio for these webinars. So my thanks again to RStudio and Curtis for hosting us for this. And today I'm excited to welcome from across the world from where I am. We're going to be talking about the shinyjqui UI package and the uses of advanced UI and jQuery with Shiny with Yang Tang. So Yang, could you just do a quick check and make sure that we can hear you?
Hello, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much. And we're going to get into some pretty exciting demos in a little bit. But I wanted to lead off the webinar with Yang. If you could tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started with using R and Shiny in particular.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I'm not a programmer and a statistic, and I got my PhD training in molecular biology. And after graduate, I've been working in Eli Lilly for 5 years in Shanghai, a research center there, and then go to Beijing for working in Novo Nordisk for another one year. And now I just joined Roche and came back to Shanghai and work here as a scientist in a preclinical research center here in Shanghai. So actually, my major work every day is just to find new drugs and validate gene proteins that could be potentially become new drug targets and new drug development work and some biological experiments, assays, and data analysis, and also some compound testing work in cells and animals. So just to adapt new technology here to accelerate the drug development work here. So you see, I'm not a programmer. I don't have any background in programming and statistics. So before I joined Lilly, I don't know anything about R actually. So everything starts from 2012 when I got my first job in Eli Lilly in Shanghai, and that's a new research center set by Eli Lilly in Shanghai. So actually everything started from zero. So the headquarters has some experts from India to help us set up some basic assays and to set up the project portfolio here. So actually, we learned a lot from them. And to tell the truth, I think Lilly is a company that pay the most attention to the preclinical experimental data quality. Actually, they require to to very high level to your data you generated, and every raw data points you put into your notebook had to be well annotated, and every analysis you did should have to use the most appropriate statistic method with valid assumptions. So the statistics is very important in Lilly, and in order to let scientists know more about statistics, and our statisticians gave many seminars and workshops to tell us how to do the right thing in the right situation. So that's when I got to know R and the statistic uh, in Lilly. So and I also become very interested to statistics, and in order to know more about the statistics, I found some online courses in Coursera. It's a very famous MOOC platform, and take some courses series from John Hawkins, and the course use R a lot, so I got to know some basic usage of R from that courses, and I continue to learn more courses in Coursera, and gradually I become more and more interested to this language and know more things, including R, Cran, and Hadley Wickman and his packages, and also RStudio and Shiny, and more recently the Tidyverse framework. So from that now, I began to use R in my everyday work. Actually, so it's just to use R to automatically load raw data from instruments, experimental instruments, and also do some data analysis, curve fittings, and statistics analysis, and also plotting. So, but the question is that the problem is that the script I generated can only be used by myself because other people don't know R and they cannot use script and cannot run script in R. How can I share my script to others? So that's why I came to use Shiny. And I searched a lot of solutions and find the Shiny is the most suitable one because Shiny can provide a very good web-based user interface with the R at backend. So everyone can get access to this R script without install anything, only just using the web browser with the internet connection. So at that time, actually, I don't know. Lily has a Shiny server implemented in their HPC actually. So I just make a standalone version of Shiny by sharing the whole R installation files and related packages and Shiny files to others. But it works very well. And but the issue is that it's hard to manage these apps in the backend, and the most important question is that when there is any update on the packages, it's hard. It's really tedious work to update all the packages at the same time. So I think the Shiny server gave very good solutions to this. But actually, before I start to use Shiny server in Lily, I once used Lily's internal system called Empower. I think that's a very interesting system. I have to mention it. It's a very it has a very similar structures to on purpose to the Shiny. It just allows user to build simple web apps, use any program language they know, including Perl, Python, R, and even C as a backend, and use a very simple syntax to build HTML UIs. Comparing to the Shiny framework, the Empower has a very simple logic, and user just provide the input from the UI and click the run button, and this will invoke the script in the backend and generate the output. So this is there is no reactive updates and no fancy HTML widgets and no interactive output, but it works fairly well. But Shiny provides you a more flexible and more fancy interface to all of this. It changed our life a lot, and with Shiny you can put this all the interaction into your apps, and with Shiny server, and you can even make your apps more manageable, and also make your connection more frequent and more flexible. So actually, this is my story and how I get to know R and R Shiny and to use the Shiny server.
Well, that's a fascinating story, Yang. And ironically enough, we actually, in full disclosure, I still work for Lily, and we weren't able to cooperate on an actual project, but yeah, we did have some communications on deploying your app and getting you lined up with that. And I'm so happy to hear, your learning journey through that. And certainly it's a story that a lot of us can relate to, where we may not have been trained programmers in the beginning, and we're just getting into statistics or just getting into computing with R. And what Shiny can open the doors for is immense. And it's great to see the progress you've made there and hearing about your journey. So one thing I do want to talk to you about for this webinar is your motivations and kind of your take on how I got to know you best, which is your very powerful and extremely useful Shiny JQuery package. So I wondered if you could share a little bit about your motivations for creating the package. And I hear you have some demonstrations you'd like to share with us. So I will go ahead and make you a presenter so you can share your screen and we can take a look at that.
Okay.
All right, so you should have ability to share when you can.
Yes. I'm now sharing my desktop, so you can see it.
Yep, we can see it. Looks good.
Yeah, actually, this is a very simple demo. But before that, I would like to talk about nails, how I built the Shiny JQuery package. And actually, the original purpose is very simple, just to make the plot. The most use case of Shiny in my everyday work is just plotting, to generate plotting and to generate interactive figures by HTML widgets. And sometimes I need to change the order of my plotting variables. It's better to make it interactively. So I am thinking of maybe a drag and drop way is good for Shiny. So I should search on the web and find a appropriate JavaScript library for that. And the top search result is this JQuery library. So I find it very popular and with many use cases and discussions. So to make the things more interesting, I found Shiny has already shipped with this JQuery library with it. It's just hidden inside the background inactively. So it only loaded when you call a Shiny internal function called maybe called the draggable panel. This is a Shiny internal function just to make a draggable panel, and then you can put your UI into it. So actually, Shiny is using this JQuery library silently. So I think this is a good choice, and what I should do is just to make it loaded in my apps and write JS code and R code to control it. So I have my first trial. It goes very successfully, and so I'm got very excited. And at that time, I was reading a headless book called R Packages, and it's a book talking about how to build R packages step by step. So very naturally, I got the idea to build a package of JQuery. So I follow the book step by step very carefully because I don't have any experience about building the new R package. So this Shiny JQuery package can be viewed as a homework or exercise after the reading. So finally, I got very first package built and got it work on my own Shiny apps. And I also get some inspiration from a blog post by Dan Atali. He's the author of a famous R package called shinyjqui, and he got very good intuition of how to build and use R and how to build the R packages. That's very helpful. And I'm also got very excited when I saw people start to give star to my GitHub packages, and my package become searchable a few weeks after I post on Cran in Google, and people began to talk about the package and on the Stack Overflow, and some people even make some tutorial about this package. It all got me very excited. So I continue to build the package, make it better, and fix bugs. So actually, this is there's no big plan at the beginning. It just do it step by step with many people's help and support. Yeah. So actually, so you can see the screen. I have made this live demo about Shiny JQuery, and the source code is available on my GitHub website in this place, and you can see the source code there. And so firstly, I would like to give some introduction to the JQuery and this Shiny JQuery package. JQuery is actually a JavaScript library. It's based on a famous JavaScript library called JQ. It put many interactions, effects, and widgets to based on the JQ library. And you can see more about it on this website. And Shiny JQuery is just a wrapper of this JavaScript library. You can use it to introduce many features from JQuery library into your Shiny apps. And here I listed some function from JQuery JavaScript library, and the highlighted item is function I currently implemented in Shiny JQuery R library. So it has some interaction functions, make you interact with your mouse interaction or movement, including the draggable. You can use your mouse to drag anything when this interaction is on. And you can drop your things into other HTML elements by droppable function, and you can resize anything in your websites by mouse dragging, and you can select anything by mouse clicking, and you can sort anything by mouse dragging and drop. And this is 5 the most important interactions of Shiny JQuery. And there are also provided some widgets in the JQuery library, but I didn't implement it in the R package because all these widgets can be done in Bootstrap. You can easily build your buttons, checkbox, and control groups, and also date pickers, all these things with Bootstrap. So I didn't implement it. And for effects, there are also some animation effects. I'll talking about more details in the later, and also how to show and hide your HTML, which and also your UI elements with these effects, and also how to add, remove, show classes by changing your classes of your UI. Also other functions I didn't implement it. So it's basically using the JavaScript to give you more interactive to your Shiny apps. So here I go to the demo, and you can load your package and first give your 5 functions of mouse interactions, and they are all in the same format with JQuery, then your interaction name, and you can put the first alignment, first argument with anything you like in the Shiny apps. Just we can just see the quick start demo about it. So in this first example, I put the tag under the draggable alignment, just to make this div alignment, div tag draggable. So I can just see when you run these apps, you can drag your alignment with your mouse at the same time. And it's just a very simple examples. And if you just want your alignment to be draggable, you can use it like this. Just ramp your alignment with this function. Of course, there are more options in this function, including the operation function and the options functions. So you can see the operation has many more choice. Enable this option, enable this interaction, disable or destroy the other interactions, and also the save, or to save the interaction and load the interaction. So the second example, I show how to enable and disable this interaction. So this is a bit about more complicated example. I create two action buttons. One is enable, one is disable, and just create a plot. And in server, I create a plot in the server side, and then create an observe event function. When you see mouse clicking on your enable button, it will initiate the resizable interaction of your plot. And then when you click the disable, it will disable this interaction. So let's see it. So if you click the enable resizable, you will see this plot can be resizable by dragging the control. And if you click the disable button, and you cannot resize the plot anymore. So it's just easily control how you can show the interaction on your Shiny app. And it also has some save load operation, and the save load operation can be work in two modes. The example 3, number 3 is the first mode. It can work. It can be work in the client side. That is, you can save your state of your interaction within a Shiny session and load it later in the same Shiny session. So let's see it. Here I have created a sortable list. So you can drag your list freely and create any orders on it. And then if you want to save this order, say we want to save the order CBA, and you can click this button on to save, and then you can do more options. And once you want to restore this option, you just click this button. It will restore the states when you save your position. So the function is like this. You can just create a observe event and use the operation and set it as save or load. So you just save at your click and load at your click. So you can see more about this option in this link, and this save load features can be also applied to draggable, resizable, and selectable. You can see here for a more detailed instruction. And also this save and the load feature can also working in across the Shiny session. That means if you save your states in one Shiny session and close your web browser, and you can load it after you reopen your browser and reopen your Shiny apps. That's what here is a demo. It's the called bookmarking states. And so actually, when you want to save this app, and you just click this button, it will show a URL. And when you want to load your states, just paste that URL into web browser. Because this is a markdown document for for demonstration, it can this bookmark cannot be work here. I just gave a live demo in the RStudio. So actually, I can let me find out the code there. So this is the same R code I have in the demo. So let me run. Oh, sorry, I haven't loaded the package. I have to stop the session. Okay, so let me create a new Shiny app, and with package loaded. Okay, so I will run this Shiny apps. And if you click the bookmark button, it will show you the URL. And this URL records the current state of your Shiny app, including the size of your plots. And if you reopen it in a new browser, it will restore the everything, including the size of your package, size of your plot. So that is a save and load features. So I will reload the live demo.
I just want to say that is a fascinating feature because I am using a lot of bookmarking state in some not so trivial ways, but it's so cool that with shinyjqui, I can still in my system potentially, because it's like you mentioned, hooking with the typical bookmarking state feature, I can save those interactions as well as the other stuff I'm bookmarking. That is absolutely fascinating to me. I'm really happy to see that.
Yes, thanks. So actually, this is a good suggestion from one of my users, and he gave a very good suggestion on how to use this. So I just implement this. It takes me a lot of work because I have to know more details about bookmarking and how Shiny works on this bookmarking states, and also more details about JQuery packages and how to restore using JavaScript. And next, I will show other options. These functions also shipped with some options, and you can see more about each interaction in this web page. And for each one of the interactions, this is a web page of JQuery, and for each one of these interaction widgets, you will see a lot of options here. And you can also use these options in Shiny JQuery packages. here's the example, and I just simply use the drag me example I used and add an option called axis as X. So it just allows the dragment to the X direction, not the Y direction. So there are also many more options about draggable. You can see here, and you can read more carefully how to use it, and just use the same options in R in this package. It will work. And more importantly, this shinyjqui package can also give you some shiny input value when you're using this interaction like draggable or resizable. So here I give a example of showing you when you're dragging, when you're resizing your plots, if you update the size of the plot in the same time. And if you give you the same size of your plot, and how to make it is just to use the input and your ID, the ID of your plot, and plus a size. So you generate in the plot, or everything you generate using a Shiny UI, you just make sure you are using the right ID name, and plus a dash size. You will get the size of that UI. So actually, there are a lot of more Shiny input values implemented in other kind of interaction function, including draggable and resizable. Here's a table of all the implemented Shiny values. You can read it more in this web page. So finally, I would like to also show some more advanced Shiny widgets created some using these interaction functions. One of them is this order input function. It just create a list of items, and you can drag it freely and create the orders of it. And of course, you can use the Shiny you can get the reordered items from the Shiny value returned from this order input. And what is more interesting is that you can make interaction between your order list. For example, in this list 2, you can move your items from list 2 into other list, and also to an empty list I created here. And you can also copy your items from one list to another. So this is just copy, and the list 2 is something like a cart. You just move your things around. So this can be done using this order input functions, and just using the connection options. You can connect your list 2 with list 1 and list 4. So you can move items from list 2 into 1 and 4. And you can also use as source option to make a move, to change the movement into the copy option. And there are also animation effects function implemented in this R Shiny JQuery package. JQuery UI library have this many animation effects, and you can show and hide any alignment with this animation effects. Here is an example. You can hide your plot with a effect called blind, and show it in the same animation effect. And also there are many more like bands and clips and drop, and also explore all this kind of anime effect you can use. You can just use the function called JQuery show and set the effect name, or JQuery hide and set effect name to do this animation effects in shinyjqui. And you can see more about these effects in the JQuery web page. And each effect has a lot of more options you can control, including the speed and also the shape, the direction, and also a lot of more things. You can read more about their documents to see. And that's all I have about the live demo of Shiny JQuery package.
Well, that was extremely fascinating to see all the different features that comprise the package. And I can tell you for sure, I've used at least a handful of those in one or actually two production apps that the feature, just for example, the draggable items or the order items. It seems simple at first, but then when you have customers that are used to very intricate web apps, whether they're just on a browser, just who knows what else, but they're used to these dynamic interactions, the fact that we can plug these powerful jQuery interactions into our Shiny app with just these function calls, it really makes a huge difference when you put these out to different audiences. So this is, again, I'm so glad we've been able to put a spotlight on some of these features. And I personally just learned about two or three that I didn't know existed. So I'm going to take a lot of this back to my daily work too. I should have mentioned this at the top, but if you're listening and you want to ask a question, please put that in the chat or the question panel, and we'll be sure to answer that in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, Yang, on the fact that you have gone a long way to making this package very robust. You mentioned some of the hard work you had to do with like the bookmarking feature and everything. But if you could talk to yourself, so to speak, or those in the audience that want to create maybe a new package that extends Shiny's functionality, what kind of advice would you share with them based on some of the experiences you've had with developing Shiny JQuery?
Yeah, actually, in order to extend the function of Shiny, I think the first thing you have to know more about Shiny and how it works with Shiny jQuery, how to work with jQuery. And actually, there is many articles available on the Shiny web server. I happen to have them opened. Actually, you can read from start and also more advanced articles in their websites. And also, I think they gave some demonstration on about how to use JavaScript on Shiny and a more advanced particle also. So secondly, I think you should know more about JavaScript and also some knowledge about building the R package. And as I mentioned, Hartley Wickman has a very famous book called R Packages. It's free available, and you can read it. It gives very good introduction to how the R package works and how to build the R package by yourself. And you can just follow the introduction and the step. Go one step by step. You will build your first package in a very quick way. And also, I think Hartley has also has a very a famous book called Advanced R, and this book gives you a very intuitive introduction on how R works in the back end. And by reading this book, you will know a lot of things you never know when you're using R. And your knowledge about R will increase and will guide you more on how you build a R function. And by the way, the second version of this book has recently published. You can read it. It's also free available. And I think documentation is also very important for our package and also for Shiny. When you're writing your functions in Shiny and your R package, it's important to know how to properly make your documentation and how to annotate your functions. So I think you have to know something about ARM Markdown and some Oxygen, a package called Oxygen. It generates the document for the R package, and also a very famous package that make the document of your project, of your R project, called the PK package down by Yihui, and this package give you a very simple way to build your websites to give user introduction to your R packages. And I think you have to also know something about how to use the GitHub and post your things on it and the interaction with your users and solve some problems they have. And also I think it's an easy way to the most easy way to build the first Shiny based package is to use the HTML widgets package. And this is a package is very easy to use. You can use it to quickly generate a JavaScript-based R package for Shiny. It can generate you a very quick template. It can fill in things by reading their document, and it's pretty much easy to use. I think that's what I can think of about how to use and build your R package for Shiny.
Well, that's excellent advice, Yang. I echo a lot of those sentiments, and it's also, I want to give a quick update for that R Packages book. It's actually in a second edition writing right now with Jenny Bryan as well as Hadley, so keep your eye on that. I've been reading the heck out of that draft as I develop more packages again, and yeah, a lot of those ideas I've used a lot in my daily work too, as I create either internal packages or I try to learn from the great packages that others have made. And HTML widgets is another great callback because we had a great session with Nick Strayer a month ago about how those are how JavaScript is powering a lot of those packages as well. So I wanted to get to some of our time for Q&A. We've got some great questions that have come in from the audience, so thank you for sending those. We'll start back to part of our earlier part of the conversation, Yang, when you mentioned that you were sharing that Shiny app you developed before you were getting involved with Shiny Server. What was your method again to share that with your users?
Actually, it's very simple, but I just make all your files, including R and your package and your Shiny R files available to others, Windows sharing, so that everybody can use your R installation and use your package and just click a file I generate to initiate that Shiny app, so they can use the Shiny app I built in my local computer. Of course, you can upload all these files onto a shared drive and share these things to other people. But the shortage is that you can only use this way in Windows, and because it's based on some Windows sharing logic. I think actually, I think there is a package to make Shiny standalone.
Yes,
Maybe
I
call
was
some
actually,
Shiny standalone
I'm
package.
actually, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to mention that here. It's called electricshine by a friend of mine, Chase Clark, who I met
Yeah.
at various conferences. So if you want to share an app with a Windows-based audience, that's probably your easiest bet to get that packaged up so they can just double-click a file and they're ready to go. And if you want to
Right.
share an
Right.
app like more on a Linux side, honestly, containers are becoming the rage these days. I'm getting involved with a lot of Docker containers right now, so that's certainly an option as well on a Linux environment. But yeah, I definitely agree with the sentiment of your advice. That's always been sometimes a tricky situation, but thankfully the community is getting involved with making that better, I hope. So another question that's getting back to some of the shinyjqui implementation. Do you see any issues using shinyjqui with, say, a Shiny module or other custom modules within the Shiny community? Maybe also the kind of newer packages you see around user interfaces, such as the ones that we talked about with David Grandin a few months ago, like BS4 Dash or Shiny Dashboard Plus. Are there any issues you see with using shinyjqui in those settings at all?
Yes, actually, there's a bug between the JQuery and the Bootstrap. If you load Bootstrap library before the JQuery library, uh, there will be called something unusual. I think there's a this is a very old bug, I think, but it cannot be solved in my scope because we cannot uh, to control the how the Shiny will load each thing in load the both thing in every Shiny apps. But just mentioned and most of the things is working very good between the Shiny and the Bootstrap and the Shiny JQuery. And recently, I think Shiny has update to version 1.4, and the version of jQuery has been greatly updated. And I noticed that there caused some bugs in the Shiny JQuery library. I'm now working on it, and hopefully I will fix this bug in a short time. So if you using the Shiny JQuery package and with the newest Shiny versions, please turn your JQuery version to the old one, so it will fix the bug.
Okay, that's helpful advice because that might trip some people up if they're just getting started with the newest version of Shiny. We'll definitely put a link to your GitHub repository for Shiny JQI in the episode post that we send out later, and make sure that if you want to contribute to the package, I'm sure you would welcome contributions, right?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll definitely make sure that hopefully the audience can help you
yeah,
out too if you need some help there. There was another question getting back to
sure.
how we might interact with other packages. Do you see any issue using Shiny JQI with something like Flex Dashboard, for instance?
Yes, actually, I noticed that bug, and I don't know why yet because it's just not working on Shiny, working on Flex Dashboard, and maybe some issue of JavaScript library loading, but I'm still don't know. I have marked this issue as a bug in my GitHub project. I'll try to solve it when I have time.
Okay, that's helpful to know. And again, I'll say if any of you want to help out Yang with his efforts, please go to the GitHub repo and share your thoughts too, because I know how difficult it can be to not only think of the different ways that shinyjqui could be used, but also keeping up with dependencies changing. Like you said, Shiny itself upgraded JQuery, so that can cause issues. So I can sympathize that there are a lot of different cases that maybe you never anticipated early on that people are trying this out with, and it can be taxing to keep up with it. So we certainly thank you for all the efforts you've done up to this point to get the package off the ground. It's been, like I said, very fascinating to see all the development with it. So yeah, I know we're running a bit low on time. Let me just give the last remaining moments to you, Yang. If others are interested in following your work or keeping up with shinyjqui, how would you like them to get in contact with you, or how would you like them to get involved?
Yeah, actually, you can contact me through the GitHub, and this is my GitHub project page. Please feel free to raise your issues here, and check these issues frequently and answer any questions you raised or any request you have. But unfortunately, I'm getting more and more busy right now. I'm not guaranteed to check this issue very frequently. So please be patient. I'll try my best to answer all these questions and solve the problems. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that again is very helpful advice, and we'll definitely, hopefully, get people in contact with you. So yeah, I definitely want to thank you, Yang, for obviously taking time out of your schedule to tune into us late at night at your area. We are very appreciative of that. I've learned a lot through this session, and we will, like I mentioned earlier, we will have a recording of this posted on the site shinydevseries.com within early next week. And I also want to give a quick plug that also coming up soon, we have a screencast that has been made by David Grandin on the use of BS4 Dash that we will be linking to on the Shiny Dev Series site as well. So if you want a deep dive into that topic, we will have that linked as well. And our next webinar will be in early November, I believe November 8th, and we will be talking with a couple of the colleagues from Dreamers, the organization, Victor Perrier and Fanny Meyer. We're going to be talking about Shiny widgets and some of the great plans they have for that. So until then, please keep in mind that we will have a post on the RStudio Community portal shortly after this. If you want to keep the dialogue going, if we didn't get to one of your questions, please feel free to send a post there, and we will, or send a response there, and we'll make sure that myself, Curtis, and Yang are monitoring that, and we can get back to you. And again, always keep the feedback coming, and stay tuned for our next webinars later in November and December. So until then, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in from around the world. We greatly appreciate it, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are. Thanks again, and we'll see you again in November.